Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. You might be able to see from the ambient light. It's a little early in the studio today. I've got a little light coming in the studio. I'm back from vacation. I don't know if I'm refreshed, but I will say that I got to spend time with family. Got to spend time with my father, who will be 93 in January. Got to experience what it's like in many ways, something that I won't share publicly at this time. But I am forever grateful to the Almighty and for everyone else who made it possible for me to see and spend that time with him. While I was away, I had a replay of two really great episodes. I hope that if you didn't get to hear them the first time or watch them, that you were able to watch them while I was away. And if you did see them the first time around, that you enjoyed them as much as I did and enjoyed the guests as much as I did, so that you decided to listen again. So here we are. It is Wednesday, September 11, 9/11, one of the most poignant dates in U.S. history these days. And, we want to make sure that we always pay homage and respect to those who lost their lives on this fateful day. This episode will air on September 13th, but as I'm recording today, I reflect on that day and where I was and all the things I saw, which I've recounted before in other episodes and won't do that today. While I was gone, there are a couple of things that happened. One, there was a shooting in a school in Georgia that I'm going to talk briefly about. And then there was a presidential debate last night that I was forced to watch by my supporters, who basically held me to task because they wanted to hear my perspective on the debate. I'm going to touch on that a bit, and I'm going to talk about how I felt about it. It won't be long. It won't be a lot, but at least it will be something that you can reflect on. It won't be a long episode. I've come back from vacation, and traveling these days is kind of hectic, and I am a bit tired. So I'm going to keep it short, but I'm going to say what I have to say as always. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back. That was a short break, and I'm right back. I'm actually talking on mute. But again, I hope that while I was away, that you had a wonderful time. I was away for the unofficial end of summer, Labor Day. I hope many of you were able to celebrate with your family and friends, and that you kept it safe and you kept it civil. And now we go into what is a good and bad for me. I love the holiday season. I love Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. I hate the cold. Want to get out there in the fall and the spring and those cooler times and ride my e-motorcycle around and just experience nature the best I can, and just the fresh air and the outdoors. But winter is not my friend. I think I've mentioned to several of you that I have to do knee replacement surgery on both my knees. And in the meantime, I had those gel shots. Right before I left, I had the third of 3 gel shots. My reviews on them are still mixed, but they've asked me to give it 2 or 3 weeks before I come to a decision as to how effective they were. I'm 50-50 on it. Some days I have a lot of pain, some days I don't. Some days I drink painkillers and they're better. Some days I don't drink painkillers and I'm still okay. So we'll see what happens. Let me readjust my mic here so you can hear me better. Great. So I want to talk about 2 things really quickly. One is, I'm looking to my side. There was that shooting in Georgia, in that school. And the reason I want to talk about it, and then I want to lead into the debate last night, was someone sent me an Instagram post of an influencer who brought something to our attention. There was a publication, a news outlet, that posted a picture and a news story that said a 14-year-old suspect, Colt Gray, was arrested for the shooting. But in the graphic on that headline, they showed the picture of a black kid, the only black kid that was killed in that shooting. Anyone looking at that headline would have thought that that black kid was Colt Gray. The headline said, a 40-year-old suspect, Colt Gray, was arrested, and the picture of the black kid who was the victim. How do the two relate? Do you know how many people read headlines? I'm one of them. And I keep going headline to headline, and I remember it, and I decide later on what I'm going to go back to read the entire story. So if you're one of those people, and I think I represent a large population, you saw that headline, and your mind said Colt Gray was this black kid. You would never have thought that that black kid was killed. The reason I'm saying black, I'm making it that poignant, not saying people of color or colored kid, is because enough is enough. These news outlets need to be held responsible. Someone should sue the heck out of whoever published that news outlet. Because what you're doing is inciting and dividing this population. And that's a perfect segue into what we witnessed last night. Last night we witnessed Kamala Harris, black, mixed, a woman of color, Democratic candidate for President of the United States, against Donald Trump, ex-president, also candidate of the Republican Party for President of the United States. Now, for the next few minutes, I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. Like I said, I'm going to keep this short. This might turn out to be one of the shortest episodes you've ever seen. And that's because, number one, I hate these presidential debates. I was sort of forced to be responsible to my supporters to watch it and give my perspective. But the reason I don't watch them is because in many cases, they don't mean much. I will admit that for last night's debate, I think I was wrong. There was a stark contrast on that stage of who the two candidates were. And I'm going to go in on each candidate, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're white, whether you're a person of color. You've always heard me talk about me being independent-minded, and this is my own perspective I'm going to give you. When I'm done, you can send me your emails. We can discuss it more as long as you're respectful. Many of you will agree with me, and many of you will disagree with me, and that's okay. Many of you will become fans. Many of you will block me or unfollow me. That's also okay. Not only are we in the land of freedom of speech, we're also in a time when honesty and integrity must rise to the top. It's the only chance we have of survival. Kamala Harris, let's talk about her performance. I'm going to talk about Donald Trump, and then I'm going to come to a conclusion. That's going to be it. What I saw from Kamala Harris was something I saw from both candidates. That is, they sidestepped a lot of questions. But if you look deeper, some of these questions were sidestepped because they didn't want to answer them. And some were sidestepped because she had to rebut things that Donald Trump was saying, which really had no substance, because the moderators did not do a truly stellar job of moderating. Sorry to say that. But they seemed intimidated by President Trump, and they seemed unable to stick to the rules of the debate and stop him when he felt like going on. They felt easier shutting down Kamala Harris than they felt going up against Donald Trump. He showed them that I am superior to you in this room, and you will bow to my will. And in many cases, they did. There are a few cases where the moderator stood up to him, but generally speaking, he had his own way. So one of the things is Kamala Harris was accused of flip-flopping several times on fracking. She made a final statement last night, but she didn't explain her flip-flopping. Okay. But that's the only thing I can really find fault of that meant anything, at least to me. I think these are the things that I thought were powerful points coming out from Kamala Harris. One, she pointed out that after the election, there's a sentencing hearing for the Republican candidate. Two, if you are a human being, if you have this much, 1/100th of a heart, you could not help but feel the passion in her when she spoke about abortion and women's rights. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, I don't care who you are. If you are a woman, that had to resonate with you. If you are a man with a daughter, that has to resonate with you. If you are a victim, that has to resonate with you. If you think about people who have had botched abortions because they're hiding and it's cost them their lives, that has to resonate with you. If you are someone who recognizes the impact of overturning Roe versus Wade and why a team of men made a decision about women's choice of their bodies, that had to resonate with you. She talked about the insurrection. She talked about President Trump's failure to stand firm against white supremacist groups. She talked about inflation being blamed on the Democrat. Well, let me say this about inflation or any economic impact. There are very few times where someone's in a term, especially their first term, and they create an economic impact that is felt within their first term. Meaning, whatever happens in your term is usually what you have adopted from the previous president. Meaning, Kamala Harris will adopt the effects of whatever Biden has done and will either get praise for the things that work and will get hammered for the things that don't. President Biden is constantly being hammered for things like inflation. In the 3 years he didn't create inflation. Inflation was already on the rise coming out of the previous presidency. But the bottom line is here, I didn't know a lot about Kamala Harris. My initial thought about what the debate would be like was that, unlike the Biden-Trump debate, Kamala Harris is a renowned, well-respected, and as far as I've heard, well-proven prosecutor. So I knew for a fact that she wasn't going to bend, wasn't going to bow, and she would know how to conduct herself in a stellar manner. That she did. She never stooped. She knew how to use facial expressions to let people, without saying a word, understand how ridiculous some of the comments were. Being president of the United States of America is a hard job for anyone. Who we choose is a hard job for us as public. But if last night's debate was Kamala Harris's opportunity to perform, I'll give her an 85. Now let's switch to President Trump. Here's my problem with President Trump, and please, MAGA people, don't throw your hatred at me. I'm just speaking my mind. Hear what I have to say. I'm yet to come across anyone who supports the Republican plan, whatever that is, that can speak of the Trump administration's policy. There's no policy. There were 3 people, I think it was CNN or ABC, someone had 3 people on last night, I forgot which station, who watched the debate. There were both Democrat and Republicans, and then after the debate, they were asked if they were swayed. There was a lady there who said she was swayed towards Kamala Harris. The other 2 said they were unmoved and undecided still. The thing about it is, when you say you're elected by the people, for the people, that's who you have to be. At least that's what you need to show the public. What I heard last night from the Republican candidate was nothing that you could make a decision on, because that was not a Republican versus Democrat. That was Donald Trump versus Democrat. I was the best president. I did this. I'm the best at that. Me, my, how, I. It would never happen if I was president. Well, how would you have stopped it? It would never have happened because I am me. I am almighty, powerful, king, ruler. That's all I heard. Asked about the January 6th insurrection, the video people saw where he told people to march to the Capitol. Wasn't my fault. Said he offered Nancy Pelosi National Guards. Well, you offered her National Guards after you told people to march to the Capitol. Maybe if you told people not to march, you wouldn't have needed the National Guard. I don't know. Talked about abortion. And this really got under my skin. J.D. Vance said that Trump would definitely ban abortion. Trump says no. Trump says that he didn't speak to J.D. Vance about it. That's the first thing that I felt insulted about. So there's either one of three things happened. Either someone is lying, Trump or J.D. Vance. Or they did actually not speak about it. Or they're on opposing sides of the issue. I can understand the not speaking about it because the more I see of the vice presidential candidate for the Republican Party, the more I realize that he is there because you need a vice presidential candidate. He doesn't seem like he's in a position to ever say, I am the vice presidential candidate, and if I'm vice president, I can assume the role of president. It seems to me that he's just there to fill a slot, but the Republican Party is not looking at him as him ever getting the opportunity to be president of the United States of America. This was because Donald Trump needed a running mate. That's it. This is all about Trump. And that's the problem. I'm not here for those of you who are getting angry and getting red-faced because I'm saying this about Donald Trump. I don't know a whole lot outside of what he did or didn't do as president as to what has changed. Has he grown? Well, I know he hasn't because he's still on the me, I'm better, I'm the best in the world. It had to be God, then me, then Jesus, or maybe he's him, then God, then Jesus. He's on this narcissistic, this belief that he is best at everything and better than anyone ever. We are all human beings. We make mistakes every single day, every single one of us. And whether you're a Republican or Democrat, MAGA, whatever, you have to agree with that. You cannot sit here and say, I never make a mistake. I'm the best at everything. I did it the best. There was none like me. No other president. I'm the best in all time. No. And yet you can't talk about one policy. And then when he talked about migrants, that got under my skin too. I'm not talking about the stupid comment about migrants eating your pets. I'm a migrant. I wasn't born American citizen. Well, maybe if I was a criminal and I stole someone's chicken, maybe I ate if their chicken was their pet. But that's not what he inferred. The way he sensationalized it was like, hide your horses and your cats and your dogs because migrants are running around grabbing them and eating them. But what really got under my skin was, and I meant to look it up before this episode because I forgot his name, but what Kamala Harris said was absolutely correct. There was a bill that was brought forward that was crafted between Democrats and Republicans, led by a Republican, to fix the border issue. And that Republican, not the Democrat, that Republican came out in the news and I saw him. And he was upset because he said he received threats from within his own Republican Party that if he allowed that bill to go forward and it passed, he personally, his life was threatened because that bill would have meant that would have represented a win on the border for President Biden. And Democrats didn't say this. I didn't say it. Go Google it. The video is there. But he kept going back to migrants and migrants and migrants. Mr. President, Mr. Ex-President, your wife is a migrant. Your wife's parents are migrants. Your ancestors are migrants. When the opportunity came to fix the issue, It's one thing to blame Biden and say, well, why did you take so long? But then I got there and you still pushed it out the door because you wanted the win or you wanted him to have the loss at our expense. It is ridiculous. Politics has taken its place over the human beings who elect you. So that is another thing that really, really got under my skin. We talked about the war in Ukraine. It would never have happened. Really? Do you know how many different aspects there are of war and the technicalities that you could never stand there and say it wouldn't have happened? Who are you? You came out and said that Kamala Harris hates Jews. Or hates, I'm sorry, I take that back. You said she hates Israel. And I'm sorry, she's shown me nothing of the sort. She might have a difference in opinion than you. She gave credit to Israel and its ability to defend itself. At the same time, she was right in saying, look at the lives of Palestinians are being lost. That should never have happened, and that has to stop. And the one that has to stop it is between the two sides that are fighting, but it has to stop. The loss of life is ridiculous. As a human being, it shouldn't matter where you're from or who you are. And that leads into the other part about him saying, when there was question about the fact that he said he didn't know that Kamala Harris was black. You are running as for president of the United States. United States is a melting pot that represents every race, creed, color. Every single bit of diversity that exists in this world exists in the United States. And you felt it was necessary to point out that you didn't know that she was black. She pointed out the full-page ad that you took out in New York when the Central Park 5 were accused and then convicted of rape. They've since been acquitted. One of the guys is actually a councilman in New York. But you took out a full-page ad for their execution. You were not judge, you were not jury, you were not witness, but you called for it. If you are black, if you're a person of color, what do you think our assumption would be that your motive is? But you want to be president of the United States to represent all people. And let's talk about MAGA, Make America Great Again. I've got a diverse audience, a diverse set of supporters. For those of you who are not a person of color like me, have you ever asked us if you wanted us to support MAGA, what we think about that statement, Make America Great Again? To make America great again for an individual means that America has to be once great for that individual. In previous episodes, I've talked about my personal interaction with occurrences where I was a victim of hatred and racism. I didn't feel great. We look at the history that they're trying to erase from schools because they don't want future generations to know that my ancestors came from slavery. That one human being decided that because of the color of their skin, they were superior to another. Something that's still here today and something that was supported by the Trump administration. I'm sorry, fact is fact. Make America great again. To make America great, you have to be accepting of all people. To make America great, people of every race, creed, and color, gender, must feel equal, must feel they have the same opportunity as others, must feel that they are judged the same as others, must feel that when someone looks at them, they don't see them for the color of their skin, but as the great Martin Luther King said, for the content of their character. This is a melting pot. This is a place in America where we need to be fair to all people, where the color of my skin should not matter as to how well I do under one administration or the other, where my neighbor or my friend or someone, a stranger down the street, should not hate me because I look different than they do, or I'm a different gender, or someone has a different sexual orientation or preference. When Americans can see each other as Americans and human beings, when we can look at each other and decide, again, like Martin Luther King said, I judge you because of the content of your character. I judge you because of your dignity, the way you respect and the way you carry yourself, for your fairness, for your honesty, for your loyalty, for your humanity, for your kindness. When we reach that stage and all of us feel that way, then we would have attained the status of great. And then when we attain that status of great, or of greatness, and something happens that we falter and fail, and then we fix it for people of color, people of different genders, people of different preferences, that will be the first time, sometime in the future, where they can say, make America great again. We first got to make America great. We've got to stop looking at each other and seeing the color and seeing the differences in appearance. Last night there was talk about our military. If you have served, you deserve respect. Always, from every single leader in this country, not just the presidential candidate, but every single citizen of the United States of America. When you put your life on the line and you go out there and fight, you don't go out there and fight for, well, I'm going to fight for people of color only, or I'm going to fight for white people only, or I'm going to fight for women only, or men only, or LGBTQI only. No, you fight for Americans. We've got to do it the right way. And that means inclusivity. That means making sure that diversity is embraced, making sure that every single bit of our libraries, our history, our books, our writings, our documentation of history is inclusive of everything we are and everything that can make America truly great. I don't care what your choice is. Come November, you're going to go to the voting booth and you're going to vote for whom you want. And I don't think last night changed, I think it changed some minds, to be honest with you, but I don't think it made a huge difference to those who were already fully decided. All I'm saying to you is this. Make your decisions for the right reasons. Make your decisions so that when you wake up the morning after the decisions the results are declared, that you feel optimistic about your ability to earn a living, to achieve a part of the American dream and buy a home. You know, I was about to close on that statement and something else came to mind. President Trump talked about President Biden's failures with student loan debt. I have got to object to that. Only because if you remember my earlier episodes, I was really hard on President Biden. But President Biden found a way around all the Republicans who kept going to court and trying to stop his student loan debt relief. And he has managed to find ways within the scope of the powers of the Department of Education to provide billions of dollars in relief for many. So while he did not achieve everything he wanted because others objected, I can't call it a failure. I have to call it a resilient effort that has paid dividends to many, many, many Americans who had student loan debt. Last night, we saw two candidates on stage. We saw what the origin of America was versus the future of what it looks like. And I say that with all respect to everyone. Donald Trump is a white male. Kamala Harris is a woman and a woman of color. Whatever we choose, the rest of the world will look at America and say, can you be a leader? Or are you just blowing smoke and you've lost your ability to lead? When we want to show the rest of the world that we are accepting of all, that we can make decisions on who leads not only us, but the world, what they look like. We've had many other countries in the world that have already had presidents, minority presidents, female presidents. So that's no precedent here. But it is a precedent for us as Americans who claim to be great. In November, when you make your decision, we must live with whatever decision we make. Let's make sure that when we make that decision, it is someone who is there to the best we can judge for all Americans. Someone who can say, you, not me. It is easy to be in denial. Today I heard all sorts of nonsense about people actually spending hours of their day that they could probably be productive in, trying to justify and prove, even though even the moderator said, the state manager said that were absolutely false. People went online and spent hours trying to substantiate the claim that immigrants, migrants are eating people's pets. If you've got a brain the size of a pea, come on. Do you really think that that was the substance that we wanted to hear last night? Again, both candidates sidestepped questions. Both candidates spent more time rebutting than actually answering what the moderators asked. But for me, who stood out as someone that I'd like to represent America, is clear to me. What does it mean to you? November shall tell. Thank you so much. I know this is a difficult episode for a lot of people. Some of you will agree with me. Others will get angry with me. Even if you're angry with me because you don't agree with my position, remember, we're all human beings. We're all Americans. You want to talk about it? Send me an email at podcast@247realtalk.net. Let's have a decent, humane, honest, intellectual conversation. Anything else, I will block you. 247 Real Talk is about honesty and decency as well. It is what really, truly should be the American ideals and not what you want to turn it into. And I will not stand for it. But I will keep my word. I will continue to bring you real talk, even when sometimes it's talk you don't want to hear. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. I ask you to continue to like, subscribe, and share. Let's be honest with each other. Our choices don't have to be the same. We don't have to agree. But we can disagree with respect and decency. And we can be honest and say, you're right when you're right. And I'm wrong when I'm wrong. It's okay. The candidates running for president of the United States of America, for the most of us, they have no idea who we are individually. They don't know Julian Perry today. They won't know Julian Perry tomorrow. They won't know Julian Perry on election day. They won't know Julian Perry during their term as president unless some event causes them to meet me. And after they're gone, the struggle of Julian Perry and all the other people in the world who are making this fight about individuals will remain the same. Chances are the struggle that you're dealing with in life, the challenges that you're dealing with, and the victories will be the same the day before election as they are the day after. Remember, the decisions we're making today are to carve and to form a future for those who come after us tomorrow. Thanks again. It's always my pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to be back. More to come. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.